Yo, what's going on, people? So, this is going to be a follow-up to the last discussion I recorded where I was talking about Nintendo fans and how they should temper their expectations in 2018. And one comment that I got rather frequently on that video was in regards to why I even made it in the first place. Normally, I try my very best to respond to all of the comments, but as they kept rolling in, I realized I didn't have to. Because if you would look at that comment section, you would have found the answer you were looking for. Nintendo fanboys, and to a lesser extent select but not all Nintendo fans, are doing exactly what I said they would in that video. Going on 6 years now, the curse of lowered expectations reigns supreme, and Nintendo fans are not holding Nintendo accountable. The entire reason why I made that video was to address a couple of things. First and foremost, the key factor was that even though the Nintendo Switch was selling gangbusters, it was doing very well, and while I'm happy that Nintendo put out a competent machine, there are still a lot of things that need to be improved. And to the fans, I made the case that do not use this hype to blind you to what is here in reality. This is still the same Nintendo. Don't set your expectations up too high and ask for the world. Those sort of things. And as you could surmise, pretty much expected, I was deemed a Nintendo hater, a negative Nancy, a Debbie Downer, you name it, I was called it. And it's funny, because whenever a company, tech company, gaming company, whatever, whenever they come out with a product that, for all intents and purposes, is lacking, that is underwhelming by comparison to other products out in the market, consumers respond in kind. They make sure that they don't support the product. The company faces major backlash. Their stocks, in some cases, take a major hit. We've seen this happen with Sony. We've seen this happen with Microsoft. But somehow with Nintendo, simply asking for the bare minimum is wrong. You as the consumer shouldn't exercise one of your basic rights, especially when you've spent hundreds upon hundreds of dollars on this system. In the span of the 2 months that I've owned the Nintendo Switch, I have invested a lot into it. I have purchased a lot of games and accessories. So much to the point where I actually had to pull myself away from playing Xenoblade Chronicles 2 to record this video. And I want you guys to focus on Xenoblade Chronicles because it's going to be very important in this video. The first point I want to make from Xenoblade Chronicles is that that's a game where I recorded not one but two first impressions, because I felt where I was at in the game 30 plus hours later was not indicative of my original first impressions. So I did what most sensible individuals would do, and I recorded a follow-up impressions. I sang the praises about the game because I felt it was right and it was genuine. Most people wouldn't do that. I'm sure if you look at videos from people who do first impressions for Xenoblade Chronicles 2, yeah, it basically stays like that, and they don't do anything else. In some cases, you guys pointed it out in the comment section. The second point I want to make is going to come a little bit later, but I really want to address why Nintendo gets a pass for a lot of these things, where their competition, Sony, Microsoft, whatever, whenever they do something that is anti-consumer, or not even just anti-consumer, something that is just perplexing beyond belief, we can criticize them and hold them accountable. But with Nintendo, you are viewed as a hater. You are asking for the world, the moon, the stars, and you need to let Nintendo do what they're going to do. They're different after all. I'm sorry, but being different is not a valid excuse. You can be different and be successful. Likewise, you could be different and fail. Look at the Nintendo Wii U. Okay, you guys are tired of me bringing it up, but it's true. You guys swear up and down that Nintendo can update the system, they can add in voice chat, they can add in lobbies, they can add in achievements, they can add in themes, they can add in all this stuff. But if it were so easy, why didn't we get it on the Wii U? And why didn't it launch on the Nintendo Switch? Because you guys didn't hold them accountable. Let's look at two examples. Let's take their competition, Sony and Microsoft. Let's start with PlayStation. The PlayStation 3 launch will always go down as one of the worst in gaming, for numerous reasons. Sony was very arrogant after the success of the PS2 that they thought releasing the system in the state that it was, $600, they thought consumers would flock to it in droves. Obviously, people didn't. People didn't want to be spending $600 for a system that didn't have that many games available. And developers didn't really catch on to the system for a few years. They thought it was insanely complicated to develop for. And what happened? Sony suffered for the first few years of PS3's existence. Thankfully, they managed to turn things around with the PlayStation 3 Sim and the price drop and all the things that they did to make the system a success. But here's the thing, they didn't stop there. They learned from their mistakes with PlayStation 3. All of the issues people had, where it paled in comparison to Xbox 360, they used all of that as fuel to make PlayStation 4. And what happened? The system was a smash hit from the jump, and it will go down as one of the fastest selling and highest selling systems of all time. Because we held them accountable. The PlayStation 4 wouldn't be a success if people who bought the Xbox 360 and systems like that didn't demand better. Let's take the Xbox 360. A system that really pioneered a lot of things in console gaming, for online of course, but it also introduced many egregious practices that unfortunately are still around to this day. Microsoft, in a similar situation to Sony, was on a bit of a high, euphoria. They saw the success of the 360 and they thought, okay, this is all we need for the launch of Xbox One. We're gonna introduce all of these features and we're gonna bill it as the future of gaming, and people will show up day one. This will be the only box that you need in your living room. And I'm sure you guys know what happens next. Microsoft got their ass lit on fire. So much to the point where all of the controversial things they introduced, they had to do a complete 180 on weeks before launch. So much to the point where the system itself is still hurting because of that initial reveal and what they did with it. That was almost 5 years ago. So if you couldn't tell by now, us being accountable as consumers actually benefits us in the long term. Because with Sony and the success of PS3 and its failures, going into the PS4, they learned not to make the same mistakes. With Microsoft, they learned a little too late. But you want to know what's funny? Even though Microsoft made a big mistake with Xbox One, to this day, they are still listening to the community and taking in all of your feedback by introducing all of these features that we thought were just a pipe dream, such as Xbox Game Pass, Netflix version of video games. That's absolutely phenomenal. Look what they're doing with backwards compatibility. That's freaking phenomenal. Even if you're not interested in playing old ass games, the sheer fact that they are appealing to their core user base is all that matters. We don't gain anything by being silent and saying, this is how it is, you shouldn't expect more, just let them do their own thing. When we see physical proof that being vocal can have a major impact. But you know, people are tired of me bringing up Sony and Microsoft, and they're tired of the comparisons and Nintendo. But you know what? Let's talk about Nintendo. Let's talk about how fan outcry can be beneficial. The most recent example is Metroid. Metroid Prime 4 and Metroid Samus Returns. Two core Metroid games announced in the same day. When was the last time Metroid got that love? The last quality Metroid game that was universally loved was Metroid Prime 3, 2007 Nintendo Wii. After that, you had Metroid Other M, which was pretty polarizing to say the least. I enjoyed it. But then, we got nothing. They tried to pass off Metroid Prime Federation Force as something we wanted. And look what happened. That backlash was monumental. It was one of the biggest in all of gaming. And the game flopped because of it. So, the announcement of Metroid Prime 4, even though it is just a JPEG, that speaks volumes. it says a lot more about Nintendo listening than it just being a game announcement. Because for all intents and purposes, that series was dead. The second example is something that I still remember because I have videos about this. And it affects one of the biggest exclusives on Nintendo Switch last year, Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Had it not been for Operation Rainfall back in 2010 with the Nintendo Wii, had it not been for all the people clamoring for The Last Story, Pandora's Tower, and the original Xenoblade Chronicles, we would not have gotten Xenoblade Chronicles X and Xenoblade Chronicles 2. The second one being a day-and-date worldwide release and being advertised by Nintendo themselves. You guys might recall people saying that, oh, you just gotta stop complaining, right? If the games were good, they would have brought it over in the first place. And it's so funny that a couple of years later, these same people are hyping up Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and trying to tell the people who were there from the very beginning with the petition that, oh, you don't know anything about this game. Like, yeah, the guy who was part of the original movement, just because he dares criticize the performance issues in Xenoblade Chronicles 2, that somehow makes him a fake fan. Now you guys see where I'm coming from. You may call this me being smug and arrogant or whatever, but it's true because I've got history in this shit. I was there. I was a part of these movements. And when I say these things, they come from the heart. What I'm about to say next is not just for shock value. It's not for a BuzzFeed clickbait article. It is true. The reason why I'm so hard on Nintendo and the Nintendo Switch is because I genuinely love the Nintendo Switch. This is a system that I was very skeptical on, and for all intents and purposes, I was going to wait until they came out with a remodel. But I didn't. I took the plunge, I bought the system, and I ended up having a freaking blast. The Switch is one of my best purchases. I love the dang thing. Since I love it so much, and since I am a realist, I expect more. Because I know the Switch has potential to be not only one of the best gaming systems of the generation, but one of the best gaming systems of all time. There's a lot about the Nintendo Switch that is great, and there's a lot about Nintendo. They have such interesting ideas and unique elements that they put into their systems that really goes unnoticed. One of the people in the comment section, Nostalgia Trip, actually mentioned how you can use certain versions, like let's say you have Mario Kart and your friend has Mario Kart, you want to play local play, but he doesn't have the updated version. You can actually transfer the update data over to him. I thought that was insanely cool because let's be real, not all people out there will want to go the extra mile to connect their systems to online, as weird as that sounds. So sometimes they don't download all of the patches to play the game. But the sheer fact that you can do something like that is great. I used to love DS download play, where all you needed was one cartridge to play the game. Those are really cool features. Nintendo does do cool things. And I admit that because I am a fan. And I want to see more of those things. In addition, I want to see things that are the standard and things that are expected. So no, this isn't coming from a place of blind hate, a person who is comparing this system to the competition, and I need to accept it for being different. I like that the Switch is different, but at the same time, different isn't always better. If we can criticize Sony and Microsoft for their mistakes that they make, and ignore them when they fix these issues, if we can make fun of Apple for advertising features in 2017 that have existed on Android phones since 2011, you damn well know we can criticize Nintendo, whether they are at the bottom of the barrel or they at the top of the freaking mountain. Because we are gamers, we love these companies, we love these games, but at the same time, we keep 110% around this bitch. That's all I gotta say today, ladies and gentlemen. Let me know down below in the comment section what you think about this. For me, for now, my name is NGS, signing out, and I already know people say, oh, you see, now you're never gonna be popular like these other Switch YouTubers. Yeah, okay. Just because I don't want to kiss Nintendo's balls. Alright, I'd much rather be real than sit here and damage control. Just saying. Just saying.